So I think this is probably going to be a little bit of a long one. This video here is strictly to respond to some comments, react to some themes that emerged from another video I posted a couple days ago regarding kind of something I learned in going down a little bit of a rabbit hole on Top Music Attorney's channel. Specifically, something I learned in regards to the sort of intellectual property, ownership, and copyright issues that surround the use of AI-generated or AI-assisted songwriting. Something that I've been very openly not in favor of personally as a songwriter, but that there is kind of a growing debate in songwriter circles, songwriter forums, where with the tool now available, people are more and more using the tool to fill in gaps in their own skill set. So, for instance, someone who's strictly a lyricist using AI in lieu of seeking collaboration or trying to, gin up their own skill set as a writer of music. They'll use AI and then bring the final result to the forum and kind of claim it as their own. I mean, they'll be open that they used AI, but they'll say, here's my song now. So clearly there's a belief, not only a practice of doing this, but also a belief that you own it. When you do that, you own it. And what I was kind of interested and surprised to learn, and I assumed that to be true myself, even though I'm against the practice of doing that. What I was a little bit surprised to learn and interested to learn was that you don't. Actually, the Copyright Office has weighed in on this, and they've already kind of made some determinations, which is that you have to disclose what was human authored and what was AI authored, and you don't have ownership or protection over the AI generated portion of your song. Furthermore, you may have given up additional rights in the terms and conditions you agreed to in using the tool in the first place. So, not to rehash the entire video, but like I said, I mean, most of my videos where I sit down here and talk about music stuff that interests me are pretty mildly viewed, moderately viewed, to put it mildly. But this one kind of caught fire a little bit and got 1,200 views in a couple days and a bunch of comments, and so I'm gonna make my way through some of these comments and group them together into some common themes and just respond to what I think about those themes. So let's dig in. I'm sure this is gonna take longer than I intended to, but hey, hopefully it's fun to do this. So let's start off with a theme I'm going to call That One Guy. It's cool because your opinion is less than meaningless and no one is listening to you. Boy, don't I know it. So I'm obviously not an important voice in this debate. I am who I am. I'm a songwriter who's been writing for, the better part of 35 plus years. I have a degree in music composition, but I'm not a star. I don't have any hits. I'm just someone who is serious about it and loves it and will continue doing it this particular way. Has cultivated my own voice and have some skills and have some opinions. But I'm also right, and I'll get this out right in front. Regardless of who I am and my sort of subjective viewpoint, the core message of the video in question that I made is something that I'm just right in regurgitating, in summarizing and regurgitating this piece of information. I'm right that for this large subset of people using AI to write songs, they believe that they own the output, and the plain fact is they don't. And I think they should at least be aware of that consideration, because I think that's an important decision making kind of, that's a decision point. Do you want to move forward with that knowing that you don't own it, Or do you want to stop doing it because you don't own it, and that makes a difference? I think that on a case-by-case basis, that's a real inflection point there. So then the next big theme to emerge is, who's gonna know? So this is things like, how will anybody know you used AI unless you admit to it? If you don't disclose you used AI to write the song, how will people know? If an AI software spits out a song for you right now and you post it on YouTube, who can claim copyright on a song that hasn't been posted or published or registered before? The software company or authors? How can they prove it? Even if there's a watermark in the AI's product, how can one can easily reproduce it from scratch? The thing is, nobody will ever know that you used AI if you don't want them to know. And then someone in response to one of these comments, I keep saying that even watermarks and glazing can be worked around. You can even provide fake workflow stems if you wanted to make it look like you saved works in progress. Another person says, it could never be determined if lyrics were written by AI. There are billions of parameter models using existing data, which is resequenced for output. No one owns words. Of course you own the lyrics once you register the copyright if you choose to do so. You're in effect saying if a songwriter mixed individual words from 10 different million-seller novels to formulate a song, they wouldn't own the copyright. You've misunderstood the legal advice. Further, any song musically has the potential to exist already in note and chord structure and be copyright claimed. AI makes this no more or less likely. Okay. Lot to respond to there, but okay, so who's gonna know? The company with the AI generator, for one. That's something that's, again, go back to Top Music Attorney, their videos where she's talking about some of the stuff that is happening right now in terms of copyright claims on that are occurring when people use AI. So I'll put you back there, and you can kind of go on a deeper dive and see for yourself kind of what is going on and who does know and what does happen. But it's not really my point to say you guys are going to be in so much trouble, like, you're going to get caught. That's not really the point I'm making. My point is more simply that an important protection and an attribution of authorship or ownership that many AI embracing songwriters assume exists, and which I also assumed existed, in fact does not. So you would think that you own the final, the full final product, but you don't. And that's something that these users, again, should be aware of. Don't you think? Have I misunderstood the legal analysis? Doubtful. Honestly, doubtful. I think that I'm very close to the bullseye on understanding what Top Music Attorney was saying, what she said, and I have every reason to believe that what she said was accurate. But that's a caveat if you want to think about it, and you can certainly go and go down that path and show me that she wasn't accurate, and then indeed I will have been inaccurate by extension. It's a pretty straightforward video that she has. It's a straightforward video by a music attorney on the current state of the law regarding AI music, and I'm not really drawing any unsupported legal conclusions of my own. I'm just saying, given that this is true, in a practical standpoint for songwriters attempting to use this, here's what I think. So my opinion is sort of the extension of the practical consequence of this legal truth. And that's slightly subjective. You can agree or disagree with me, but that's my conclusion. To that same person, again, I'm not a lawyer, but obviously you can own words, not individual words like tardigrade, but original stuff you write, lyrics or novels or cookbooks or whatever. I mean, that's what copyright's all about. And you don't have to register them for that to be true. It's yours. once you create it. I think that the standard is, once you fix it in a tangible media, if I recall correctly, again, from it having been, recently seen it explained, something I already knew, but recently having seen that language explained on Top Music Attorney, I believe that that's the language that she used, was fix it in a tangible media, i.e., once it leaves your brain to live in a notebook or in a Word document or on, a voice recording on your phone or whatever. And it reminds me, like, I used to belong to a song review network for songwriters in the late aughts. And I remember one time, like, getting I guess I should explain. This is kind of where I'm coming from with this sort of, when I talk about the practical reality, like how important it is that you do own words, that that ownership matters in a really fundamental way that should be obvious, but apparently is not as obvious as it could be. So I'm reminded of a time when I was on this songwriting critique network, and there was this, one of the songs that came up in my queue to review from some other independent songwriter, had like completely plagiarized the verses. It just lifted them word for word from an Annie Lennox song, Legend in My Living Room, which is not a very well-known song. Maybe probably most of you have not heard that song. It's a great song, though. It's a personal favorite of mine, so I recognized it right away. I'm like, hey, I know those words. I know what's coming next. And then it took me a second. I'm like, oh, it's Legend in My Living Room. And it just, like, I just sort of sat there, kind of slack-jawed, thinking, like, just why would you do that? Because obviously there's nothing to be gained once you, because of the plagiarism, the song could never move forward in any kind of meaningful way. Like, you can't release it on an album. You can't publish it or shop it. You certainly can't sell it in any way, because it would always be at risk of statutory damages, which are, like, I forget what they are, but it's like in excess of $100,000. So, like, you really just, I guarantee you that Legend in My Living Room is a copyright registered song and has the full suite of protections afforded therein. So, like, what are you going to get out of it? Like, the best outcome for you is just that you're going to, like, fool a bunch of people like me, a bunch of, low-level, aspiring and struggling songwriter reviewers into being, like, slightly more impressed with your writing than you deserved. And sometimes that's how it feels with these, like, AI songs on songwriting forums. Not that they're necessarily cheating or, trying to pull a fast one, but it's like, is this AI song good enough to fool a bunch of, and some people don't declare it. They do just say, here's my song. And then you kind of pick up on the reality, and then someone asks the question, and then maybe it kind of gets ferreted out, and it's a very frustrating little process. But, again, it's like, is this AI song, like, good enough to sit at the table, or good enough to fool a bunch of other aspiring songwriters into thinking that you're more capable than you really are? Because in my experience, like, again, like, these AI outputs, it's incredible that technology exists, but it's not like, wow, those are gold nuggets. They're, like, amazingly mediocre. And, I think about, like, like, I can certainly put the shoe on the other foot. Like, I can't draw. Like, I'm not a good visual artist, but I have ideas for things I'd like to draw or see drawn, see rendered. And for me, monkeying around with AI and, drawings of tardigrades doing funny things is kind of amusing for me, and something I could never do on my own. I could never doodle a bunch of tardigrades doing stuff. So sometimes that's how it comes across. And I mean, anyway, there was some more here. I digress as usual. So for this camp that goes kind of one step further to outline like how you might sort of cheat and evade detection, a lot of that advice kind of assumes a sophistication, like a recording sophistication and a prowess that kind of frankly begs the question, maybe you could just as easily do this on your own if you're that capable. Like if you have this ability to like take the AI output and reconstruct it and do, stems and sessions and, re-record it and divorce it from the output, like scrub it, then why don't you just make your own music to begin with? Like again, these AI outputs, they're not incredible. It's not this gold mine of like jaw-dropping synthetic ideas. They're okay. They're mediocre and they're derivative by design. And again, it's amazing that that's even technologically possible, but go write your own mediocre music, and then better yet, like kind of polish it. Like learn, it's not that difficult to learn to polish your own ideas into something more inspired and creative. Like go that route rather than pull off the heist of the century. And also, again, I'm no lawyer, but it does kind of strike me that, if you were ever actually challenged in court by an AI company, it'd be pretty easy to demonstrate that you had access to the output they gave you, and that now you're just trying to scrub it or falsify the miraculous coincidental parallel creation. Oh no, I swear it wasn't the output. It's this other thing that I made. See, here's my session. So I don't know. It seemed a little silly to me. Okay, but even sillier is it's easy. Just build your own proprietary AI to own the output and avoid learning to write songs. So, I think this is sort of half joking, but like make your own AI software and then you'll be able to claim the product as yours. Obviously, it strikes me that it's probably easier to write a song than to write your own AI software. As someone who's done a little bit of coding, dang, do I think it's a lot easier to write songs than to write code for anything. There's a lot of sort of general anti-AI sentiment, and I'm sympathetic towards it. I don't have a lot to say in response to it, but I'll acknowledge that it exists. Let's see here. Oh, this is a good one. So, what do you mean, serious? So, the thing is, 99% of songwriters are not serious. They just want to make some money. And sure, not all songwriters are serious. And for those who aren't, this revelation doesn't matter as much. Like, think back to, doesn't matter to me as much that I can't own my... it doesn't matter as much. It's not going to deter them anymore. Like, it would stop me from... tinkering with a bunch of, picture this AI images of tardigrades in outlandish circumstances for my own amusement. Just because I have to acknowledge that I won't be able to publish them as a kick-ass best-selling coffee table book. But 99% is hyperbole. That's obviously a little high. I can't agree with that. I'd actually I'd venture that most people who write songs are at least serious enough about their own writing that they care about retaining ownership and establishing originality. So to be told in no uncertain terms that they would be unable to own the final product would or should be a deal breaker to most of them. And they should be aware that that's the case right now. Let's see what else we got here. We got, oh my. This is a long one, but it's a good one. This whole court's out of order. So, if I patent a neural network that actually mirrors how a human brain looks, who would you be to say that your brain does anything different? Would it be more important for you to maintain that you created a thing all by yourself, all on your own, enough to risk prison? Or would you maybe think about how everything we do is on top of everything that came before, not independent from it? I think the concept of ownership is what bothers people. What's funny is you ought to know. Nothing is owned. Everything is essentially rented out. We don't really even own our bodies. We only own the experience we all share. I own my own unique perspective. That's it. And even that is made up almost entirely of something outside myself. I think the real question shouldn't be who's playing with AI, but is a system that allows me to do a thing such as patent a creation of mine so that none can profit from the content of their own minds be something that persists? Should profit even persist when it leads to situations like this? The main criticism people have of stuff like this has nothing to do with the expression itself, but livelihood. Music as a way to survive rather than a means of artistic expression. Competition over food. Protect my identity, my creation from being profitable to anyone but myself because I need to eat. And F everyone who's curious enough to explore a different paradigm. I don't personally use AI to actually write any music, but I have no idea how many AI features have snuck their way into my production software that I use regularly. After a point, where do you draw the line? When AI becomes a part of everything, is negative criticism of the generations benefiting from it going to be seen as genuinely human or out of touch? You old dinosaur, that type of thing. I think people are being held back creatively, spiritually, physically by the control mechanisms behind every transaction, a desire to reduce everything to an exchange of numbers. I think there's a lot of irony to be found in looking into why we really feel the way we do about AI. It's a new world of music too common to copyright. Nobody will pay licensing rights for music that's no better. Excuse me, hang on here. Okay, I guess that was one person. And here's another one right on their heels. It's a new world of music too common to copyright. Nobody will pay licensing rights for music that is no better than AI-generated music, and no one will want to listen to the same licensed baloney over and over again when their personal AI is creating a continual fresh stream of newly created music attuned to their likes in a way that Spotify can only dream about. F copyrights, F commercial music altogether. Let the era of music as business die and be forgotten. Welcome to the new era when music will be too cheap to meter. The very idea of the business of music is a profound perversion of music itself. You're a victim of the Dunning-Kruger effect if you don't grok this by now. 95% of AI songs are more interesting than 95% of crap that humans create without AI. AI is going to completely change the nature of how humans create and experience audio. The old guard can tisk until time comes for them to drop dead when they will speak their ignorance no more. AI is a tool as radically transformative and freeing as the DAW. Those of us who don't have our head up our but grok this. The old guard lacks the conceptual vocabulary and intelligence to know what's going on. I'm so sick of the effing high priests of music who want to deprive the everyday musician of amazing AI tools to create music in new ways. Music which is often equal to or better than anything they've ever produced. Sorry, old guard. You had your time. Now it's our turn. Just sit down in that chair right there and let us show you how it's done. Fire in the Matrix. Run, child, run. That rant is better than anything AI generated I've ever heard, and I love the passion. I love the language, and but I also think it's not. It's a little off too. So there's a lot going on there, and it's certainly not the first AI generated creator to express something about how this tool democratizes the process. Like that's another belief that I come across very frequently, that, that the resistance to AI generation is some form of elitism, some form of like gatekeeping that's unfair, conspiratorial, that's old guard, new guard. Like this is not the first time I've heard someone express this kind of sentiment. But here's what I grok. The real Dunning-Kruger shibboleth as regards AI-generated music at this moment in time is this kind of fervent belief that it's the equal of 95% of what's out there. It's very impressive that AI is as good as it is at constructing mediocre music and lyrics. And it can be on par with mediocre human efforts. And I've joked about this in other videos, and the AI lyric video where I went through some AI generated lyrics and kind of critiqued it, because legitimately it's making the same kind of mistakes, the same kind of poor choices that novice songwriters often do. And, I can't hurt a robot's feelings, so I kind of laid into those choices there in a way that I would never call out somebody, publicly, or critique publicly a real person's real poor choices lyrically. So I get it, but if you really believe that AI generated art stands toe to toe with the real deal, then that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. You don't know what you don't know, because to anyone who does, the difference is obvious. And I, as I've said many times in this video, I understand why AI appeals in this context. Personally, again, I can't draw, but yet I have these ideas for drawings, and with AI I can skip the obstacle of not having any talent or ability, and I can bring my killer ideas to life, such as, I'll just give you a little teaser. I'll give you a teaser. Abraham Lincoln and Winston Churchill riding bison-sized tardigrades across the Martian dune sea, carrying laser poleaxes, clad in improvised plate armor crafted from the pieces of their crashed spaceship's scorched hull. Submit. And then out'll pop something better than my stick figure drawing but could ever otherwise create. But if the same legal standard holds, and let's just assume it does for the sake of argument, I'd have to scuttle my plan. I can't take that and say, guess what? I'm going to become a graphic designer, and I'm going to open my own firm, and I'm going to generate all my clients' orders via third-party AI, because I wouldn't own it and I couldn't sell it. So the party stops at me giggling at these great anachronistic heads of state engaged in some kind of space operatic adventure with giant tardigrades. Moment of silence. Okay, the next one. It feels like this isn't the end of AI, it's the future. We're rocketing past the uncanny valley, and there's no way to get the genie back in the bottle. I have a feeling there's going to be case after case of gray area usages and false claims and unprovable disclosures. This technology isn't going anywhere, and it's only going to get more difficult to discern. Thanks for pointing me towards the music lawyer. Cody, what happens when these AI companies generate so much context that literally there are no good ideas left? Use it as a rhyming dictionary, or you can ask it if a phrase makes grammatical sense, but don't use it to actually write lyrics. Economics is huge. People en masse prefer convenience over quality. If you want to produce quality, you have to find the people who will pay for that. I'm only going to use AI when it becomes a standalone software on my computer. Maybe it needs a small server, and that's okay, but if it's connected to the internet, I'm not going to train it on me. Why is it that artists who should understand the crucial importance of those 10,000 hours of practice think they can fire up AI and instantly possess the skills to effectively use it to create music? Do y'all realize just how arrogant that is? Some corpo a-hole shoves a half-bass generate song button in your face and suddenly you're a world-class AI expert because you know how to click it? Watch what happens as creators become highly proficient with AI. 10,000 hour artist level proficient. So there's some interesting questions and points there. And it is a safe bet that this technology will both improve in quality and also spread. I think AI in general, machine learning in general, is here to stay in some form or another. Obviously, the anchors of this technology are in places where, you know, this being used as a creative tool in this field of operation is a sort of a limited byproduct of the greater sort of gravitas that will keep AI probably around as as a search engine, as a as sort of a business tool. I have no doubt that it's not going away. As for the economics within this little realm, my point stands. Right now, you don't own what you generate with third-party AI. So it's less convenient, lesser quality in your model and mine, and non-exploitable financially. So, there's a glut of human talent that's available to fill the demand for music. So I don't agree, I'm not persuaded that this shifts the paradigm just yet with those facts in place. Generally speaking, so the 10,000 hour thing I thought was very interesting. So generally speaking, in my opinion, artists and songwriters who are putting in their 10,000 hours aren't very interested in AI. And that's been my observation. So, I'll speak for myself as one such artist. Like, I don't need an easy button, and I don't want a tool that does the writing for me. I don't want or need a tool that does the writing for me. I'm very invested in doing it myself and motivated to cultivate my own voice. The people who I do notice using AI to write, in whole or in part, are by and large novices who like the shortcut and believe it levels the playing field, which I think is very debatable. I think that the outputs are far more mediocre than many of these people realize. Which is another thing that does not appeal to me. It's not like bringing me to it's not elevating my writing. Someone's going to say something smarmy, but it just isn't. It's not really. It's not a tool that elevates people's writing into, that brings people to the cusp of being in that sort of upper echelon of elite writing. It's nowhere close to that, let alone to people who just have put in that 10,000 hour limit. So, yeah, I think that, they believe it levels the playing field, and they also kind of fundamentally assume that what they generate belongs to them. And the whole point of this entire thing, I also assume that, but it turns out they don't. And I think they should be aware of that. And again, even in the scenario that they outline, where AI becomes like a tool wielded expertly in the hands of proficient writers, the whole point of my prior video is that it doesn't make sense to do that, because as it currently stands, you don't own the AI generated content as your own intellectual property, and that kills its usefulness to a serious writer. So, I wouldn't even bother monkeying around with it to see what I could do with it. If I could John Cage I Ching the thing up, and look that up if you want to have a more cogent argument about randomization or using those kind of tools. I wouldn't even bother monkeying around with it, because whatever time I put into it, whatever I invest into to using it as a tool, I can't use it. So why bother? I mean, I'd be better off just sort of giving myself exercises to get out of my own comfort zone. I'd be better off just doing it the human way, through human synthesis of saying, you know what, I want to challenge myself to write a song that's in a genre I don't normally write in. Let me personally study that genre, take it in, soak it in, synthesize it, make my own conclusions about what makes it, what is the essence of it, and then try to put that into practice and see what I think about it, and then refine my own prompts. I don't need AI to do that. I can do that if I'm motivated to do that. And then I own it. So I don't need the shortcut. The journey is what's important. Just the journey is where you put in your 10,000 hours, and where you continue to put in 10,000 more. Like this tool, I have yet to see where I would want to use it, even if it weren't for the sort of deal breaker fact that I won't own anything that it does. So anyway, I know that's very long, but hopefully that's saucy and interesting. And good luck to all of you, wherever you are in the journey, and wherever you stand, whichever side of the fence you're on here. This is just, it's something that's interesting to talk about, and I hope that you find your way through it, as we all must. So navigate away, and I'll see you on the flip side.